Good morning. Happy Easter. Yes, it is still Easter. And this morning I wanted to tell you a story about one of Jesus' disciples named Thomas. And this story is in the Gospel of John. I wonder if you've ever heard of Thomas. I wonder if you remember his story. This is one artist's painting about this story. And this is from a very long time ago. This is from 1308. The artist's name is Duccio. This one is a little more recent, but not much. It's by an artist named Caravaggio. And you can see Thomas right here, looking at the wounds of Jesus. And here's a mosaic of Christ showing himself to Thomas. And finally, I have a Maffa print from 1973 that shows Thomas looking at the wounds of Christ. I wonder which ones of these paintings you like the best. I wonder why. Well, I'm going to retell you the story while you think about these pictures. It was a Sunday night, and 3 days ago, Jesus had died on the cross, and 10 of the 12 disciples were all gathered together. They were kind of hiding with the doors to the house locked up tight because they were afraid. They were afraid because they were Jesus' friends, and the people who had killed Jesus might come after them next. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Jesus appeared to them in the room. And he showed them his wounds from his hands and his side, and the disciples were full of joy. And the friend they saw died was alive again. It was a miracle. And Jesus said to them, peace be with you. And he told them he was going to send them out into the world like God had sent Jesus, but they weren't going to go alone, and that they would go together. And then Jesus disappeared as quickly as he had come. And Thomas wasn't there that night. So when he got back to the house, the disciples let him in and told him what had happened. And they said, "We've seen the Lord." But Thomas had a lot of trouble believing this miracle. It seemed like such an unbelievable thing. He wasn't sure. And so he said, "Unless I see the mark of the nails in his hands and put my fingers in the mark of the nails in his side, I will not believe." A week later, the disciples were gathered around in the house again, and this time Thomas was with them. And when Jesus came and stood among them, he said, "Peace be with you." And Jesus let Thomas touch the wounds in his hands and his side. Thomas believed immediately and worshiped Jesus by saying, "My Lord and my God." He never even touched Jesus' scars. But what I want you to remember about Jesus and Thomas is that Thomas was a questioner. The empty tomb and the resurrection, that was all very confusing for Jesus. And it was very confusing for all of the disciples. They didn't know what to think. They didn't know what to do. And Thomas was one of many who had questions. But Thomas was the one who was brave enough to ask. And what I want you to remember is that God is big enough for all your questions. It's always okay to ask them, just like Thomas. Will you pray with me? Dear Lord, thank you for your questions, the ones we ask and the ones you answer. Thank you that we see your love all around us, and remind us to help others see your love all around them. Amen.